Nonconforming material control. Anyone that becomes aware of nonconforming or questionable products is responsible for segregating and then labeling all suspect parts or materials identified, or at a minimum notifying team leader, supervisor, or a quality assurance representative in order to prevent unintended use. Never place a non-conforming part on a workstation table, sorting table, or any other place where good parts are located. Once parts are identified and segregated, the next step for handling non-conforming material or parts should be to determine if an RFA is necessary. If the process needs to be evaluated the next run, complete an RFA and move on to the next step. If no RFA is needed, move on to the next step. If parts can be reworked or sorted immediately, be sure to tag all suspect parts and materials, and then the rework or sort task can be assigned. Also, notify the QA manager or designee if there is any reason to believe suspect parts have already been shipped. Individual boxes and gaylords must have non-conforming material labels placed next to the box label when present, and are not intended to replace existing label. When disposition is to sort and there is no distinct cutoff when defect started, then we must sort back until we have 2 good boxes in a row before we can stop sorting. Pallets of parts must be labeled on all sides with exposed product labels in order to prevent parts from accidentally being removed from the pallet as good parts. When parts will not be sorted or reworked immediately, they will be DMR'd or scrapped. Parts that can be reworked or sorted later, such as medical devices, large lot rejects, parts missing inserts or secondary operations, planned DMRs, or open DMRs. The parts should be separated and labeled, and then a DMR should be completed and turned in with a worst case sample part and a best case sample part. Bad parts that cannot be reworked will be scrapped. If the parts are not worth more than $500, they should be scrapped or reground immediately. If they are worth more than $500, they should be DMR'd for review by MRB board. Using the job instruction for DMR forms in the Blue Book, complete DMR for the non-conforming material. The more information, the better. Turn in completed DMR and samples of non-conformance to your supervisor. Physically move items to the non-conforming or bonding hold area. If the parts cannot be moved, include the location on the DMR form. Parts also need to be moved in IQ to bonding hold. Type the employee number listed on the DMR form in the reason field in IQ. Next, we will go over some examples of how to use the flowchart. Example 1. Team leader is doing an SPC check on a multi-cavity part running for 3 hours halfway through their shift. Team leader notices one cavity has a damaged feature. Follow the flowchart to know what to do. Find all parts and make sure they are not in stage ship. Tag all boxes immediately with orange non-conforming material tag. Determine if defect can be corrected immediately or if the process needs to be evaluated. In this case, the mold needs to be repaired, so the defect will be fixed. Will parts be reworked or sorted immediately? They cannot be reworked, but can be sorted and only have 3 hours of runtime, so will be sorted on the floor immediately. Example number 2. Employee notices a broken ejector pin is causing excess material being left on the part. Employee and team leader look back through 3 boxes. The only bad parts are in the current box. Parts cannot be reworked now or later. 46 bad parts were found, and they are worth $9.56 each, equaling $439.76. These parts can be scrapped or reground immediately and claimed on the shift data collection form as defects. Example number 3. Team leader notices a small bit of flash on some of the parts that just finished running on a press that has been running for 3 days. It is intermittently scattered throughout the previous 2 boxes. Segregate all parts and tag them all with non-conforming material tags. This process will need to be evaluated the next time it runs because the job has completed. RFA needs to be completed. There are too many parts to be reworked or sorted immediately on the floor. They will need to be reworked or sorted later. All parts are labeled and separated and DMR is completed. Sample needs to be provided for material review board and then parts moved to bonding hold.